Kiffin Watch 2025. LSU Odyssey is live. How you doing, everybody? How you doing? It is Wednesday, November 26th, day before Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving Eve. And though we are an LSU podcast, an LSU website, an LSU, writer, an LSU reporter, we are all focused and dialed into the Ole Miss Egg Bowl. I should say the Mississippi Egg Bowl, Mississippi fight between Mississippi State and Ole Miss this weekend. Why? Because we are supposed to, at the culmination of that game, according to Keith Carter, the athletic director of Ole Miss, in that statement that he put out, we are all supposed to finally get the answer. Where is Lane going? I mean, it's kind of all set up for him to, hey, Lane, so where are you going? And then I'm going to, the first question of the press conference is kind of weird, kind of bizarre, but okay, if that's how you want to do it, then okay, that's how you want to roll. That's no problem there, but kind of unheard of, and a weird situation, but LSU could be the major profiteers of what is going on, the madness that's going on in Mississippi right now, because Oxford, Mississippi, I shouldn't say it's turned on Kiffin at this point, but things are getting nastier by the day as this game gets closer. And I didn't quite expect that. I expected a lot of the people to kind of move on and kind of be like, he's going to leave. Well, screw him. We'll move on to the next guy. They're kind of like, this dude's going to be LSU's freaking next coach, and he's going to run our team out there against Mississippi State. I'll be damned, but we have to do it. It's a weird situation. I'm going to also explain to you something. I'm not sure if this is known by too many people. I'm sure a lot of diehard fans who are up to date on all of this have seen this and have heard this, but just for everyone to kind of understand what adds another layer of bizarre spectacle and timing insanity to the situation is, if Ole Miss fire Lane Kiffin, it's not just, okay, you're going to go take the LSU job. Well, after the Egg Bowl, we're going to fire your ass. See ya. Now we'll just go get our next head coach. That's not how. They are literally going to have to pay him $36 million in a buyout if they do that. Ole Miss will have to pay Kiffin $36 million in a buyout on top of the near $100 million deal LSU are offering. I mean, Kiffin, the great college football swindle right here. My God, about to run away with $150 million here. Jimmy Sexton's gonna be sitting on a beach just with a cigar. This is some wild shit. And Kiffin kind of deserves the last laugh and all that stuff. That's great for him, but I don't care about Kiffin's future as long as it's somewhere else. Unless he's coming to LSU, I don't care about this drama and this back and forth crap. It is getting tiresome, and that's really what bothers me, is that Ole Miss have proven what a small time, poverty program they are by letting this become such a spectacle, letting this whole thing become so ridiculous. And drawn out and wild and wacky and ridiculous, and just at all times just like a reality TV show, and embarrassing at a lot of junctures. And it's overshadowed, greatly overshadowed, what is the end of their season, which is a hell of a lot better season than LSU's had. And I understand the timing. Ole Miss have to get searching for a coach as well. And so they like eager to get that decision from Kiffin. But then what do? Are they going to fire him and eat that buyout? Are they going to hope that he just is generous to forgive $36 million and just resign? I mean, my God. The situation Ole Miss are in. I mean, it'd be interesting what the contract says if he wins a national championship. What that would mean, like say this thing goes on for longer, and LSU not having another target, we're kind of just like, oh, we got to hang on to this Lane Kiffin sweepstakes thing, and hope we're not being played. And man, it's a bizarre situation, and you go from LSU having the most bizarre offseason, not even offseason. What am I thinking? It's the season okay. This is how bizarre the season has been. We are already thinking that this is the offseason. No. Like there's still another game left against Oklahoma. Holy shit! But it's just like mentally, psychologically, what a shitty season. And all these moves, the firing of a head coach, the slicing of your athletic director. I mean, you didn't have anybody except for board of supervisors to lead a press conference at one point. I mean, LSU were in a state of institutional madness. And then you go from that straight into the Kiffin saga. And that's going to be your number one and only seemingly candidate. That's a crazy situation to be in, but that is where college football has left all of its participants. And people, I don't want to hear these high dollar rich, folks who are involved in college football, who are running the show, decision makers, maligning the changes of this or that, when it's like, my God, like how much money have you pocketed off of all of these ridiculous situations and ridiculous. It's just virtue signaling to pretend like they care about the purity of college football. Oh, it's not just about all the money, and it's not just about oh, yes, it is, and it's becoming more and more prevalent by the season. A money sport, a money run sport, and I hate to say it, it hasn't totally ruined the product yet, but it's getting close to it because you're going to see everything being extremely overpriced. You're going to see people's interests become priced out of the game because they can't go to the games anymore. It's too expensive, or they can't afford to get the crazy streaming packages that will actually have all the games. And trust me, ESPN Plus doesn't have it. You have to have some type of provider behind it for it to even work on most things, except for La Liga, Spanish La Liga soccer. Other than that, and like the Bundesliga, and a few select college football games, usually you have to have some type of provider behind it. So there's a lot of these scammy for money BS ways that college football has gone down the tube in, where it's just purely a money and just a for money just scheme. And I can see why it's made the fans disillusioned when you're seeing coaches making $100 million and all of the stratospheric costs of rosters. And we're not even talking about just LSU, but like, there was a quarterback for, I'm trying to think of who the name of the player, but it was like Arizona State or something like that. It wasn't like one of the best schools in America, but he was worth like something like $4 or $5 million in NIL, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, have we really reached that point where it is this empirically money driven? Because I'm telling you, it's not good to the sport of college football for what it inherently is supposed to be. Although I will say this, LSU's 2025 defense, oh, that's Michael Van Buren. 2025 defense was full of transfers. Halsey, Pyburn. You had so many different characters to this Cooley. You had so many different characters on this defense, and they were from a lot of different parts of the country all together. And they were unbelievable. MANSOOR DELANE from Virginia Tech. You got guys from all over the country on that defense. You kind of threw that defense together. And they were unbelievable. Juggernaut LSU defense. One of the best defenses LSU's had in years. The best defense LSU's had since 2017. Really, statistically, by the numbers. So it can work. You can build a team pure money, purely just kind of like a, I don't know how I'm trying to describe this, but like a pure mercenary, like just go out and buy everybody type of thing. You can do that and it can work. But you saw how the defense had these games where things kind of broke down and different injuries and things like that. It didn't go everything. Nothing completely went the defense's way this season because you had an offense on the other side of the ball that constantly wasted every freaking opportunity or every, screwed up every game you kept them in. It was just ridiculous how betrayed our defense this was this year by this offense. But my overall point is I don't want to see the game become so, because if you're seeing the money right now at this height, it's not going to, price isn't going to go down. So I just don't want to see the game become so crazily like money driven that like the average fan can barely even afford to watch it. That's what I'm kind of annoyed by. And you don't want to see any taxpayers coming close to paying a cent for Lane Kiffin's contract or for Brian Kelly's contract. The buyoff, the buy off of Brian Kelly's, the rest of his contract, which has become a crazy situation as well in among itself, where, was Brian Kelly even formally fired by LSU? And the reason he wasn't was because LSU were still trying to decide if they wanted it to be for cause or not for cause. Absolutely wild situation. Because maybe LSU has a case. Do they have the evidence? Did they have the evidence within the time frame of when they were supposed to be able to recoup that $56 million from Brian Kelly instead of paying it to him? Maybe it's just time for the. Maybe it's time to free BK. Free BK, baby, free BK. Yeah. So LSU are going to be on the hook for a lot of money just on flipping our staff. putting the staff together. LSU are going to be possibly paying around $200 million to make all of this happen. And if people want to try and pretend that that number is lower or whatever, like, they're in fantasy land. Purely fantasy land. And not only that, but then you're talking about the roster on top of this. You've got the staff. And LSU had an incredible staff put together this season, right? You had some big problems on that staff, though. Some big-time names who were just not fulfilling their end of the bargain. Some guys like Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, who were always talked about for these big jobs. Even head coaching positions, both those guys. And Hankton winning a national championship as the receivers coach at Georgia, stuff like that. But potentially given, credit for the development of Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Even though I think you can give that credit to Mickey Joseph just as much as you can give that to Cortez Hankton. Mickey Joseph, after all, was the man who recruited them and won their commitment as well. Hard won for both of those guys, by the way. But you have to get rid of Brad Davis, Cortez Hankton. You're going to have to pay those guys a handsome king's ransom sum as well. I mean, this is going to be a major investment by LSU. And you wonder how much is the taxpayer going to be involved in footing the bill? Because Governor Landry is involved. Very, very involved in all of the goings-ons here. And he looked over the contract offer. He wanted the numbers. He wanted to make sure. And I just find it funny that he was so alarmed by Brian Kelly's contract. But I guess that's because Brian Kelly, lost games and all that shit and looked like a loser at the time. And so he's like, why are they paying this loser? What the hell they're rewarding this loser for? And then, well, Kiffin, he looks good. Damn, everyone's after Lane. Kiffin. Everyone's after Lane. We got to go after Lane, guys. It's okay to get that 90 million, that 99 million. Like, I can see how Landry would be turned, but it's very interesting, the hypocrisy of all of that. And the enthusiasm, I just don't want it to be so palpable, the enthusiasm to get Lane, that LSU allows this to affect tuition rates, all sorts of other things around the school that affect fans being able to go see the games, being able to afford to see the games, being able to afford the parking, concessions, all that stuff. And people are already kind of on the tip of the spear of being able to afford that stuff. But I just don't want to. I don't want LSU to travel further away from where the core, the identity of the LSU Tigers should be, because we did that with Brian Kelly, right? We got rid of Brian Kelly, and now I feel like we're at a moment in time where, is Lane Kiffin the right guy here? Because if you miss on this hire and Lane Kiffin isn't up to the task, he pulls a Brian Kelly as well. Maybe not the laziness part of it or whatever, but he can't get it done. Then it is a situation where I don't know how much money you can really even find to continue to keep doing this. And that's the thing is you got to wonder, like, how many wars are being fought over this? Like, are we like, yeah, we'll sell the weapons to Israel, or sell those weapons to North Korea or or whoever, whatever country, because that'll make us a lot of money, to Ukraine, and then we'll be able to buy all these players. We'll be able to shove the money into Texas A&M. Like, you've seen that with the military-industrial complex. You've seen that with the tech industry. So it just worries me that we'll become at a faster rate more amoral as a society, especially as a sports society, as we see, like, hey, I don't really care. They can Palantir can watch my every move. Palantir can use my information to get me fired from my job, whatever. I'm just, they look at the roster they bought for my team. That's all I care about. Like that's kind of the weird psychotic society we're heading to with some of this stuff. But I'll stop my ranting. Kiffin Watch 2025. Kiffin. Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin. Kiffin Watch 2025. Yep. Everyone still wonders what Lane Kiffin is going to do. And there's a lot of people who are going to claim they know exactly. Ooh, I've got the breaking news. I know exactly what's going to happen. Oh my God. Oh my God. But I'm here to tell you, folks. There are a few times I thought, oh my God, I've got it here on this story. Oh, I know exactly what's going to happen here. And then someone's done something or something's happened behind the scenes that has made me go, oh my God, I have it completely wrong. And the amount of sources, high-level sources who would and have given me information on stories before, who have no idea what Lane Kiffin's about to do and are in a position where they should know what's going on, but don't, is very stunning. And if you notice, outside of people saying in a very, determined voice that they believe Lane Kiffin for sure is coming to LSU, like, there isn't a lot of, hey, we know this for a fact, because people don't. There's a lot of gray area going on. There's a lot of mist going on. There's a lot of weirdness going on. And I think LSU fans are kind of hoping that Lane Kiffin is this emblem of like a new dawn or something. Like, it's very weird why LSU fans feel like if we get Lane Kiffin, it's just going to unlock the Pandora's box to greatness, and everything will be fine. And I'm here to tell you that, like, we've got to make sure that we, even if we get Kiffin, we have to do the right things here. We can't get rid of a Frank Wilson. As much as we possibly can, we cannot get rid of Blake Baker. If that's just going to be an inevitability and Pete Golding's going to come in, I don't know about that, guys. I don't know. Like, Pete Golding's had some really good defenses lately, but I just don't know about that, especially if you say goodbye to a guy like Blake Baker who maybe would return. But here's the thing. You would then have the highest paid assistant coach in the country, Blake Baker, on your staff, coaching for the highest paid head coach in the country on the same staff. So you'd have some pretty wild shit and maybe some ego stuff going on. Also, I was stunned by this. I thought there was no way Lane Kiffin, he wouldn't be like, oh my God, jumping at the idea to be coaching with Austin Thomas and trying to build a roster with Austin Thomas again, who he did that with at Ole Miss before. But the more and more I'm hearing, as time has gone on, things have become clearer. Man, I'm really worried that Austin Thomas won't be on the staff next season, because Lane did not like when that Austin left, and it almost like broke his heart type of thing. And he loves Billy Glasscock. That name, Billy Glasscock. Yeah. And that's his current general manager at Ole Miss. And I'm hearing that that's who would follow Lane, and then I don't know where that would leave Austin Thomas. I mean, you got to keep the guy on staff. But here's the thing: if Lane's kind of got this personal vendetta thing, you left me, now you got to go. Man, that would be tough. Remember what was some of the problem? Um, what was sorry? Let me rephrase that. What were some of the biggest problems for Brian Kelly in his first season at LSU and kind of his first part of his reign of terror? It was that he tried to make LSU like Notre Dame of the South. That was what really kind of sticks in my mind, is that, Polian, recruiting guy, going out to my home state of Utah, going out to Colorado, going out to Nevada to get players, and missing on guys right in your own backyard in Louisiana. Running the worst, most gutless special teams unit LSU's ever had there in 2022. Man, there's a lot of things that Brian Polian was awful, but it wasn't just him. There were so many components to that roster that were built of out-of-state dudes. No Louisiana identity whatsoever at all. And that was kind of some of the issue with this team this year as well. It's crazy how much that defense is built up of guys from out of state. And it's still got a nucleus of Louisiana guys, but you just be shocked how many guys are from out of state on this team. And that's been kind of the way it's been operating for the last 5 seasons, really. 2019, you can kind of add into that mix, but there's still a lot of core Louisiana guys. Man, I'm worried about this whole thing from the outlook of how can LSU afford to do this and do this right, while I know LSU have the money to can generate the money. I'm not saying that LSU can't. I'm not saying any of that type of stuff. What I'm saying is I'm just worried about what that will cause, the domino effect of that $250 million project here. Okay. Maybe even, I honestly, probably more, with, putting in 35 million into NIL as well. On top of that, buyouts that we don't even know about that exist. It's likely closing in on $300 million here. And this is a win now operation if Lane Kiffin comes into LSU and he's able to retain a lot of these players. It looks like Harold Perkins is gone from LSU. He's in the senior night and all that stuff, and really weird, kind of sad moments of finality and all this stuff with Harold Perkins. What if Lane Kiffin's able to keep him? And then Whit Weeks. West Weeks is going to be gone to the NFL. But Zach Weeks, the youngest brother, is a specimen, guys. An absolute specimen. Right there in the middle, 35, Zach. He is incredible. He might be better than both of his brothers. He might be the best Weeks brother. And you cannot lose Whit Weeks from this team. You saw what happened when you had no Whit Weeks for 4 really tough games. Vanderbilt, A&M, LSU, Arkansas. You had him just a little bit for those last games. So, barely even counts. It really was just for that drive. And I told you that in this last show, maybe on Friday, actually, I said it in the show, but I know our diehard listeners will remember this. I said, by the way, everyone's wrong about Whit Weeks' injury, and it's a lot more serious than people know. I remember clearly saying that. And when it was this whole thing about Witt's going to play, I'm kind of like, what? Okay. And I kind of felt like, wow, I guess I got it wrong. But then I'm like, how did I get this wrong? I'm hearing it from blank, blank, blank about this type of extreme thing going on. And it's quite obvious he played for this ceremonial reason to be out there, all three brothers. And it sucks that it couldn't happen a few more times because they're all worthy and they're all really good. But, and they all would probably complement each other too. But you have to get Witt and Zach back for next season. You have to. Bringing on Lane Kiffin, I think that does that job. So bring back two really big time core defenders. Huge. Huge. You're not going to have anything at quarterback. Maybe Michael Van Buren. But as far as Tigers in and out, I mean, it's quite obvious Colin Hurley is. And nothing's been announced. But it is all set up for him to transfer. It really is. And that would suck because he's a great kid, but he needs to play as well. And then, Michael Van Buren just burned a red shirt to play in that 13-10 Pooh Fest. And I think that's absolutely crazy that he did that. I don't know who advised him to do that. It's shocking. I think it's very selfless. It's cool. It's old school that he did that. But like, dude, like that did not do any favors for your future. Just like I feel bad for him in that respect. And so you kind of wonder who's Kiffin going to bring in? Who's Kiffin going to bring in at quarterback? That's kind of a big. Oh, we misspelled Kiffin's name. What quarterbacks is Kiffin going to bring in? And that's a big deal too for the future here. Like, and how much are those guys going to cost? And it's kind of hard to go transfer portal hunting for multiple top-notch quarterbacks and like, hey, I want you to be my number 2 guy because you're pretty good, but you're not good enough to start. But if this guy gets hurt, it'll be great to have you. Like you can't. You have to be very political and very weird about it when you go shopping for these quarterbacks in the portal. And so you really want to have at least one or two that you've recruited and earned the commitments of. You don't have a Garrett Nussmeier anymore. You don't have a Colin Hurley. And so that is an issue for me because it's gonna be tough to be able to sell that and get multiple quarterbacks you can rely on. And so are you going to be able to go out and get a top-notch quarterback in the portal and then say, hey, Michael Van Buren, will you stay too? Will you waste another season kind of perhaps on the bench? I mean, that's just not going to happen. So with Kiffin, the rebuild, even if LSU hire Lane Kiffin, the rebuild is going to be considerable as far as making decisions very quickly in like 1 or 2 months, flipping this staff and roster, retaining, a lot of big time players on this team, hopefully, trying to, and then going out hunting in the portal and trying to get as many top dogs as you can from the portal. And Kiffin will have his contacts. Kiffin will have his targets. I could see Kawan Lacey following Kiffin to LSU. or wherever. Kiffin goes to Florida, which I think is about at 0.05% chance that he goes to Florida still. So you're telling me there's a chance, like microscopic. I just don't see why he would go to Florida. I don't really understand why. The rebuild is so much worse than LSU's. But here's why you would go to Florida over LSU. If LSU has a governor that is involved in every decision and starts to get a taste for this thing and has to be involved at every turn. No. Actually, now he has to approve everything at every turn. No. Now he is getting way more involved than any governor has since Huey Long, and we've had a lot of governors, Bobby Jindal, John, so many different governors get involved in LSU affairs. But the way Landry was talking about LSU and the decision making, I'm not going to let Scott Woodward make it. Wow. So you're the guy in the room who's going to be making the decisions, making the calls. That's what it sounds like to me every time Governor Landry speaks up. And maybe it's bullshit. But you look at the power hierarchy, and there was no one there to fill that vacuum until President Rouse gets hired. But who hired them? Verge Osbury. Who hired him? Who hired Rouse? Who? Governor Landry. So that's the only thing I could really see make Kiffin be like, damn, I don't know if I want this drama. Like, that's the only thing that I could see really making Kiffin forsake LSU is this politics, this madness, this involvement. We can't do this. We can't be part of this crazy shenanigans. Like that's it. So guess what? Breaking news from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. Brian Kelly has received a formal termination letter from LSU. Okay. Formal termination that says LSU are dismissing Kelly without cause. The school says it will pay the required buyout of $54 million over 6 years. As long as Kelly meets his obligation to find another job. Obligation to find another job? What is that? That makes no sense. The letter details Kelly's responsibility to mitigate the buyout. That includes making good faith, reasonable, and sustained efforts to obtain employment. LSU expects Kelly to maintain reasonable documentation of his job search, including interviews and offers. Jesus, man, this is such a wild situation. Such a wild situation. So LSU are going to swallow that money. They're not going to drag Brian Kelly through the mud. They're going to pay that money. That's the end of all that. End of that story of Kelly and the whole buyout thing circus. So thank God that's ended. But at the same time, $54 million is, oh my God, it's so much to swallow up. I mean, you paid $100 million to this guy. You paid him the $100 million. You paid the man 10-year type of money, and that's what scares me about Lane Kiffin is I've just seen too many of these things that are too good to be true in college football, especially when it involves LSU recently, as far as searching for coaches, trying to really reach that mountaintop of getting the best of the best, and coming up short or getting the wrong guy. Because if Lane Kiffin comes to LSU like we're expecting, like we're really hoping, and why we're excited, championships will follow, and it will be the most swaggering, most badass team in all of college football. It'll make Dan Lanning, look out of style. It'll make Dan Lanning look like, just his Oregon shtick with "this is USC's funeral." It'll make him look like WCW or something, like it. This marriage of LSU and Lane Kiffin is meant to be, and really, from everything we've been told and continue to be told, as weird as Lane Kiffin is, as enigmatic, complete enigma that he is, I think most people can agree that LSU is the best place for Lane Kiffin to go. There's really no other, like, this is the better option. Like, Florida is a absolute cesspool. You can see how delusional and weird their fan base is. But you know what? Maybe Lane likes them crazy. Maybe Lane likes them wild. Okay, Paul Tarver. Wow. Is Pete Thamel report on ESPN true that LSU is dropping for cause with Kelly? Yep. His report has now been echoed by Ross Dellinger, Yahoo. Yeah, that is true. Amacat1 says, at this point, I don't want Lane. Never trust a snake. Wow. That's a hot take right there. No on Lane. Wow. Paul Tarver says, Cat, the hope is Lane at 50 is over the itch to jump to the pros in 4 or 5 years if successful at LSU. Hey, even if he gives us 4 or 5 years and we win a title, okay, move on. That's fine. Amacat1 says, opinion on Flynn, Hester, and Matthew all not really wanting Lane. Yeah, there's some vibes from those guys that seem like they don't really trust this move. I saw Hester was liking Drinkwater. Wasn't that happening? And then Tyrann Mathieu really kind of went not in on Lane hard or something like that, but he kind of like let it be known, like, you see what he's doing to his team right now. Do you want a guy like that? Sorry, guys. That was a little unexpected call. I had to answer it, but had to immediately tell him I was on a show. And sorry about that, guys. Amacat1 says, "Call me crazy, but I want John Gruden." Oh my God. So does a guy named Keith Cohen. A guy named Keith Cohen continues to say that nonstop. Why would you want John Gruden, or why do you even think John Gruden can coach still, man? Like, let's be real here. Let's be real here. Let's be honest here. John Gruden, he hasn't coached in college football since like 1989, 1991. Not only that, but man, his style of offense, his playbook is probably as outdated as Bo Pelini's defense was in 2020. I'm not trying to pile on or be rude or whatever. I just have a different opinion with it. I don't understand why John Gruden is thrown out there. I understand his film breakdowns are inventive and interesting, and he knows his ball. I get it. But Gruden is just not. Gruden is not the guy. I mean, the whole Kiffin thing is it's very interesting because here we go with LSU. We're sick of the drama. We want stability. We want someone who's going to actually, love and appreciate Louisiana. We want a leader of men. We want all this stuff, and we don't want to throw away a ton of money. We don't want to gamble a ton of money again. We can't afford all this stuff. Now let's pay $100 million to go get Lane Kiffin, and he's never won a championship. He's won a championship as an assistant, and he's been incredible as an assistant at multiple places. And we think he would be an awesome success at LSU if given the right resources, given the keys to the kingdom. He would absolutely dominate at LSU. Dominate. When you talk about his offensive line play, his running backs, all that stuff, Kawan Lacey, he gets the running game at LSU going again. And mind you, he's had great defenses, truly great defenses at Ole Miss now for 3 seasons now on the trot. You combine that with his penchant for running the football and trying to get the running game to be at its optimum, which would be a welcome return for LSU fans, and it would set up for everything LSU wants to do. And it would help your defense as well, which LSU could have done a lot better a job of doing this season, controlling possession, grinding teams down, wearing teams down. Kiffin is great at that. And then he also can activate these skill position guys on the outside, which we weren't able to this season. Guys like Aaron Anderson, guys like Barrion Brown, guys like Xavion Thomas. I'm not sure if Xavion has eligibility left, but all these guys, speedsters, you're going to lose Chris Hilton Jr., a guy that who knows what happened with him, because it seemed like Cortez Hankton didn't want him in the lineup anymore. That's what it seemed like to me. It didn't seem like Chris Hilton Jr. necessarily lost a step. I mean, he had some shots for the ball down the field. He did make one really horrendous drop. He had a fumble as well. I don't think he was really given enough opportunities out there to really look truly lackadaisical. I mean, he'd just be thrown into the game at a random moment, and nothing would really happen for him. It was crazy to see the disappointment there from Chris Hilton Jr., the lack of involvement, and just wondering how did this happen from you're tearing it up, catching touchdowns on DELANE and Halsey in fall camp, and then you're not even like playing, not even having a role. What is this? Very strange. And you know, he played enough games where he's out of eligibility. He just used up his last year. I mean, it's crazy for Chris Hilton, and I hope he somehow gets a shot in the NFL because he's an interesting talent we just haven't seen put it all together. And LSU have a bunch of those type of guys. And Lane Kiffin is an expert at taking what he has and maximizing it to the nth degree. Now, I really think you can have a juggernaut offense with Lane Kiffin back at LSU, and then either you keep Blake Baker, or if Pete Golding comes, it's really not a bad option either because his defenses have been very good the last few years. Top 10 type defenses. Still, in my perfect world, you would keep Blake Baker. I don't know if that's possible. I just don't think that's possible. Do you guys think it's possible to keep Blake Baker and hire Lane Kiffin? Paul Dever says, if we get the Lane train, we have to deal with the swagger and the drama queen. A chip cures lots of flaws. Well, of course, but you know, that's the thing that also is annoying is this endless, exhausting coaching search is one of the craziest stories anyone's ever done. And you just know that it's too wild and wacky that whoever breaks this story is going to be mostly chosen rather than like a detective. Because it's just like you can't really get inside people's minds and be in the room one-on-one with him and Jimmy Sexton when they're, how can we ruin this team's coaching search and ruin their recruiting season while also going to this team and making a shit ton of money? Like, there's some ways this could go down that could really be Lane Kiffin, like not only burning bridges at Ole Miss, but like get the hell out of that town because they're about to do what happened with Tennessee times 15.
Special attention to that T-shirt he's got underneath his jersey. More Grand Valley State player.
Long live BK! Free my boy! Free my boy BK! You know.
Isn't that interesting timing that Kenzel Kelly goes out there and does that, and then immediately after LSU were like, fine, we'll stop this buyout business. It's almost like Kelly was like, you've embarrassed my son enough. My son almost walked out there with a prison mic do-rag on. I'm like, my God. So I wanted to formulate a kind of ongoing list of Tigers we kind of assume at this point before official announcements are going to be leaving, going to be entering the portal. And some of this can be done from just kind of obvious observations, obvious information that you can get. reports we've made. So you don't necessarily have to agree with all of these choices by us, but some of these are just obviously going to happen or have already happened. They just haven't been announced. But I'm pretty sure you're going to see Colin Hurley depart the program. Obviously, I think that's goes without saying. Sadly, Colin Hurley, fantastic kid, but it seemed like the second we fired Brian Kelly, and he saw what people said, his reaction was very visceral to that, and he was like, "I'm out of here. I'm done." That is not 100% confirmed that he will be gone. Frank Wilson did say it was a personal matter. That could just mean what we already said it meant, but it could also mean that it is a personal matter. So we'll have to see that play out. Caleb Jackson is a player we already reported about like 10 weeks ago or something, like a long time ago, and said that he was not going to play another down, not play another snap for LSU. And what happened after that? He didn't. And we only had a few running backs. And so that news right then was pretty shocking. And a lot of people said I was lying. I was making it up. I didn't have any sources. His own mom called it a lie and said, if I want to know something, I should just ask her. Matt Bruni on 3 called it a lie and attacked me on the on 3 forum, mocked me, made jokes about me. Bryce Kuhn did as well. All this stuff, and what happened? He never played another snap for LSU. Caleb Jackson. So, can you see the gaslighting that just happened? Can you feel that? Like, that's a lie. And then just wait. It'll be on 3 from our sources, or 247 with our sources, or fill in the blank place that was going after us with their sources. Will report that Caleb Jackson's transfer, and it's like, man, we're not making fun of you or your lack of sources, but you're like coming at us saying we don't have sources when we just literally broke the news way in advance of anybody else, listing his father as an official on the record source. So it's very funny. It's very hilarious. But just don't be fooled by that type of stuff. There's some obvious deception going on there. But for me, I'm thinking Caleb Jackson, obviously, Colin Hurley, obviously, Jordan Gilbert, we know was going to enter the portal. Ashton Stamps is going to enter the portal as well after redshirting this season. Who else do you think is going to leave LSU? Who do you think is in a position where leaving LSU would be for their best? That's probably the most interesting question of all. Whit Weeks. Could Whit Weeks leave LSU? Could we see, Blake Baker goes. He doesn't quite hit it off with Pete Goldie. He's got one more year. Could we see Whit Weeks go back to Georgia and maybe Zach Weeks goes with him? I mean, a lot of people aren't expecting that or seeing that coming, but let me just say this. I was told that, hey, there's decisions that are waiting on other decisions, other things to happen. And there's going to be some big dominoes that fall that maybe you're not expecting. So LSU, they got to get this right with the right hire. Because by doing that, you get the right hire, you're gonna be able to retain the majority of your players. They're going to be like, okay, I want to give this coach a shot. And I think Lane Kiffin does that for you. Tickle Peedle. What's up, man? He says, if we can't get Lane Kiffin, a guy like Deion Sanders makes a lot of sense. He's a phenomenal mentor and recruiter. You know, I don't think Deion's going anywhere. He's got some health stuff going on. There's a lot of things going on with him that maybe, you know, I just don't understand why you would just want to bring a guy like him when he has no connection to LSU. He's just kind of like a big name that kind of has some swagger and a superstar, and he's done some great things coaching wise here and there, but his teams haven't really been good. And like he's been good at punching up here and there, but he hasn't really. Colorado weren't really a good team. He's someone that is still at the very beginning of their coaching pedigree and their coaching journey. Would you really want to entrust LSU's kind of crossroads right now in the hands of someone like Deion Sanders, very unproven? Man, I don't know about that. And that's another problem with this thing. It's all just degrees of guys who haven't really proven this, that they can do this, other than like you get a Nick Saban. Lane Kiffin is as close as you're going to get. A Dan Lanning is maybe second on that list. Obviously, this isn't counting guys like Kirby Smart that are just never going to leave Georgia. You know, not counting him, obviously. But man, I see a pathway for this to all make sense for LSU to get what they need in a coach. Be able to retain the best players on the roster. Be able to really supply the roster with the type of talent it needs from the portal. Finish this recruiting class in the way it deserves to be finished. Tap into that Louisiana talent. Retain a guy like Frank Wilson on staff. Or try and retain a guy like Blake Baker if you can. And no, Tulane will probably come calling. So last year was probably too early for him. Now, you know, could be on the cards. A lot up in the air at LSU, and it's very difficult to ascertain exactly what you're being told is true and what you're being told is real. And that's why you need to be careful who you're talking to and the kind of sources you trust, and kind of the rabbit holes you go down. Because I'm going to tell you if I don't know something. There's a lot of people out there who are going, "Oh my God, I just got this text. Oh my God, I just got this thing." Oh, but then they won't tell you even like a glimmer of what it is. We will always say, "Give us a second. We're trying to write this thing, or we're going to get this ready for a show or whatever." And then we do it and we give out the information. Be very wary of cheap assholes who will like just cheap thrills assholes who are, "Oh, I got all this info," and then not produce anything because they don't have anything. Believe me, if I've got the info and I've got the green light to put it out, I'm going to put it out. And I'm not going to invent news just to put it out. And that's the thing you see too, is there's a lot of invention of, oh, this is happening, or this is going down, just so that they can sell some more stuff. I'm going to tell you if I don't know. I'm going to tell you if I haven't heard anything. Like, I'm going to just say it. And if someone beats us to a story, we will credit them. Okay, let's see here. Comments, let's see. Amacat one says, then Summerall takes the Ole Miss or Auburn job. Yeah, or I guess Florida was gonna interview him, but then backed out of that. Like, God, what a terrible look. Like, what are you doing? That's a terrible thing to do right there. Terrible move. Florida just keeps shitting the bed, and it's glorious, I got to admit. Paul Tarver says Lane will be under lots of pressure to turn Tigers into winners quickly, like Mike Elko at A&M. It's true, and that's the thing is, I think this is pressure that he will be able to handle and be ready for. It's just, is he ready to accept that challenge? And if he's going to stay at Ole Miss, okay, God bless him. All right, but why did you do this? And it's only to like, look at how much I do for you. Look at why you gotta, be on my side. You got, no matter what I do, you gotta love me. I'm the king of Oxford. It's this whole thing has been weird, and maybe it's unintentional. Maybe Lane didn't mean for this to all end up being like a massaging of his ego. Maybe he didn't mean for that, but I think he did. And I think this was a revenge that he enjoyed because, let's be honest, for a long time there, Lane Kiffin was kind of exiled out of modern college football circles, just exiled completely. Like, you're just not a part of this world. And it's cool to see him kind of get that, strike back. He's able to get that, have that comeback, that rise. On another hand, I don't want this to be some reality show at LSU's expense where another kind of Wizard of Oz king behind the curtain comes to LSU, highly paid, a lot unproven. And the second they arrive in LSU, there's just too much temptation, too much excitement, too much emotion, too much craziness, and they succumb to all of the trappings of, what's been the ruin of many a poor boy. The house of the rising sun, where every LSU coach has fornicated. And I mean every coach LSU fired. They fornicated at the old whorehouse down in New Orleans. Like John Brady, Les Miles, Brian Kelly. I'm not fired for doing it, but fired. But that's part of the stew here. And then, of course, Coach O. Who am I forgetting? There's got to be a few more than that. Lane's got to be careful in LSU country. Avoid that temptation. I think he'll be. I think he'll just be just fine. Lane is getting to that kind of mature phase of coaching and life where I think this is the right time to make that move to LSU. Everything I'm told by reputable people are saying that they would be stunned if Lane Kiffin rejected LSU at this moment. but there has not been any documentation signed just right this moment. No MOUs, no nothing like that, just yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen. That doesn't mean it can't happen an hour from now, 2 hours from now. But that is to mean that has not happened just yet. So if anyone tells you it's done, it's signed, it's done, they're not correct. They're not correct, and they're jumping the gun. This is one where you're just going to have to settle in for the long haul, and it might be even longer than some expect. I really do expect something by even, maybe Friday before the Egg Bowl game for something to kind of leak out. But I would be stunned if this went after Saturday. But with this whole thing, would we really be surprised by anything at this point? Like, let's be real. It's been so wild, so ridiculous. Would you even be surprised at this point? Oh, guys, I absolutely love y'all. Thank you so much for checking us out and watching and contributing in the comments section. You guys are badasses. We got Paul Tarver in the house. We got Amacat1, Amacat / John Gruden Lover 1. We've got, I have to give you a shit, man. I'm just giving you a shit. We got Tickle Peedle in the comments section, a new person I have seen in the comment section. This is the first time I've ever seen you in the comment section. Tickle Peedle, Peedle Pepper, or whatever it's called. I mean, that's a bizarre handle, but that's fine. We are welcoming to all. We're an inclusive bunch, the LSU Odyssey Live people. We're inclusive. We're not woke liberal inclusive, but I want to finish the show with this. MANSOOR DELANE, incredible specimen at corner for LSU this season. We wrote a preview profile for him in the spring. And I wrote it in the article after watching a lot of his footage. And I watched some at fall camp, but they were moving him to safety and doing all this weird experimental bullshit with him. And it told me they already know how good this guy is. Like, they're kind of just like moving him around because we already know you're like our starting shutdown corner and you're good. Like, you're fine. Let's move you to safety for a bit, see what you can do there. Just give us options, stuff like that. And then I looked more into this film, and I was stunned that, yeah, he allowed some touchdowns, he allowed some big plays, stuff, but he was so good at mirroring who was in front of him. And I just felt like this guy, if put in the hands of Corey Raymond, like, this guy's going to be, like, stunning. Like, this guy's going to take that next level. He's going to hit that next level like Jarek Bernard Converse was able to, Mekhi Gardner was able to, but times 10 of those guys. More skilled than those guys, better than those guys, and with Corey Raymond actually there, he's going to take these guys to the top. And that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened, because you saw MANSOOR DELANE go off. 10 pass breakups, 10 forced incomplete passes as well. So that's just like literally his coverage is so sticky. He forces like the quarterback to throw the ball out of bounds, but it's like still a target, but it's like a bad pass or just an incomplete pass in any way that's targeted in your direction, but because of your sticky coverage, like the ball can't get there. Like, that's a forced incompletion. It's something that really can just screw with a quarterback when they throw a duck like pass like that, either out of fear or whatever it is. They don't make it catchable for their guy because, oh my God, that guy's coverage is incredible. You saw it with Darrelle Revis a bunch. He wouldn't get too many interceptions, but he'd have a ton of forced incompletions. And you got the same thing with MANSOOR DELANE, although he's had his hands on the ball a lot this season. wished he had gotten a few more interceptions. And now he's nominated for the Thorpe. And the last few guys to be nominated for the Thorpe for LSU have won. You know, you got Grant Delpit in 2019. How Derek Stingley Jr. was not even nominated for the Thorpe Award or for SEC Freshman of the Year in 2019 blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. 6 interceptions, almost 20 pass breakups. Like, Derek Stingley Jr. was unfucking real in 2019. Didn't get anything for it. Didn't get any recognition for it. But Grant Delpit won the Thorpe Award for, playing both free safety and strong safety on one ankle and doing a pretty damn good job of it, and actually getting better as the season went on outside of that bad Ole Miss game. But still, Grant Delpit made plays in every big game that season, was very critical for that team's success. And then you had Morris Claiborne winning it over Tyrann Mathieu in 2011. And then you had Pat Peterson winning the Thorpe in 2010 as well. So the only guy who's lost in being nominated in that whole thing was Tyrann Mathieu, but him and Claiborne nominated in the same season. When LSU has a guy end up as a finalist in this for the Thorpe Award, they almost always win. But I'm very worried about Caleb Downs pulling a Marvin Harrison Jr., like what he did to Malik Neighbors with the Blitnikoff, where he's going to barely scrape it away from the actual guy who should have won. I'm really afraid of that. I'm really afraid of MANSOOR DELANE being the best corner in the country, but not getting that recognition because of Caleb Downs, Ohio State, just kind of getting that. We're the higher ranked team. We're actually going to be in the playoff. MANSOOR DELANE did not play the last game, which I think, if he can actually get a couple interceptions or some crazy shit like that, 4 pass breakups, 2 picks, and a pick 6 against Oklahoma. Man, I mean, he's been an unbelievable freak on corner blitzes with quarterback pressures. You had a few quarterback hits. You've really seen MANSOOR DELANE be a fantastic all-around cornerback and the best cover corner in the country. Are they going to see it that he's the best defensive back in the country, or are they going to think Caleb Downs is the guy there? I don't. I think you should look at these numbers here, and you can see that he beats. These numbers are, by the way, are courtesy of Harrison Valentine, who does LSU coverage for like LSU sports. Like, he works for LSU, a former student. You can see MANSOOR DELANE there. These are the 3 finalists, and you can see that MANSOOR DELANE wins in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, leads in 7 categories, where Caleb Downs just leads in 2. Look at that passer rating allowed, 27.5 passer rating allowed. Good Lord. Just 13 catches. 0 touchdowns allowed as well. This says 9 pass breakups, and Pro Football Focus only has him at 9, but most other places have him at 10. So I went with 10 because I know that really don't trust Pro Football Focus when it comes to pass breakups. They don't tally pass breakups correctly at all. Like, they don't know whether to put it as a pass breakup or a batted pass, and then they mix them up together. Like, it's a horribly stupid way to tally that, when it's just like, man, if you put your hands on the ball on a pass, it's a pass breakup. Just tally it. And so I don't really take, this is all from Pro Football Focus, but I would have used the pass breakups metric from all the other sources like Sports Reference or ESPN or even LSU's stat broadcast. And all of them have him at 10 pass breakups. So, and look at that. Caleb Downs has 1 pass breakup all season, 2 picks. Like, what are we talking about here? And both of these other guys have allowed over 20 catches. So Mansoor DELANE better win that Jim Thorpe award, and I hope he does. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cheated out of it, but I'd also be very, very, very happy to see him win it. We will be talking about the Oklahoma game tomorrow. Oh wait, no, that's actually Thanksgiving tomorrow. So, yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe we could do a Thanksgiving night show if you guys would be down for that. Or we could just postpone it until Friday. But either way, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's been great to talk to you and to see some of your thoughts on this whole Lane Kiffin thing. And I can see that a lot of LSU fans are tired of this shit. They want a resolution now, and they want to move on to the future now. And I agree with you. And I just hope it's a future where we get the best of Lane Kiffin. We see the best from, and LSU does not get left at the altar. We get the big kahuna coaching target. And hopefully for once we get this right, and he delivers, and we actually hit the nail on the head here with getting Kiffin, because you look at it from a conceptual point of view, man, he fits at LSU in so many different ways. This just makes sense. Anyway, everybody, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. From my family to yours. Love to all of you guys. We'll be talking to you very, 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 very soon. We've got something we've been writing over the last few days that we keep editing and keep messing with. I cannot wait to show you guys this story. I cannot wait for you guys to check this out. It is really going to blow your mind, I think. It's something that it's been a labor of love, because it's a story behind the scenes of this team that I've been privy to this whole time and have had to keep to myself while writing this thing. And now it's to the point where we can start to unleash it and put it out there. So we're going to be doing that very, very soon. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You guys have a fantastic rest of your night. We will try and get better at this every single time we do this. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and for watching. We love all of you. Let's fucking go, baby.